Yeah. So this is really a difficult spot to be in. So basically what has happened over the past couple of days is the result of a broken system. Okay? So the Supreme Court is made up of judges that are appointed by the president, right? Right now it is there are 6 conservative Supreme Court justices and 3 non-conservative Supreme Court justices. It's supposed to be a partisan or a bipartisan group, but it is a very partisan group, and you can tell by the decisions they've made in the last couple of days, right? Like it's transparent. And one of the reasons why this was able to happen is because of the unlimited term limits when it comes to judges. A lot of you don't know because you were either young or weren't paying attention to politics in this time. But I also wasn't. This is something I learned past when this was happening. But before Donald Trump was elected, there were multiple Supreme Court justices that were very, very old. And there were people within the Democratic Party, and these were Democrat justices. There are people in the Democratic Party that called for them to resign, to retire. The reason being is Obama was in his second term, and there was going to be a new election. And they wanted them to resign so that Obama would be the one to appoint new justices. That did not happen. What did happen is Donald Trump got elected. Those justices, did they die? I know Ruth Bader Ginsburg died, and somebody else also left or died. And I think there was another one too. And all 3 of those spots got appointed by conservatives, which is why we have such a heavily conservative leaning Supreme Court right now. So you get to, we all remember like the hearings with Brett Kavanaugh and Amy Coney Barrett, where everyone's like, these are ridiculous. Brett Kavanaugh's an old frat guy that has a bunch of sexual assault allegations. Amy Coney Barrett was like a former cult member. It's like an absolutely crazy people that are like, no, we should not have them, and they got elected anyways. Welcome in 2023, more like 1984. Psh, pure shit show, yeah. The turtle-looking fuck also made sure to block every person Obama wanted to appoint, as there was a seat available near the end of his second term. Yes, they were able to block. That's the third one. They were able to block them and put it off until Trump got elected. That's right. Thank you for reminding me of that. Pure shit show. So it's fully stacked now. So that's where we are. So let's get started. I have some tabs open. We're going to read some stuff. We're going to go through. We're going to break it down, and we're going to get a little upset. And then hopefully towards the end, we'll have a little bit more hope and not be so upset. We're going to start, get a little doomerish, and then we're going to come back from it, okay? So I'm just giving you a warning, okay? We're going to get a little upset here, but it's not going to end that way. Hopefully. Who knows? So here we go. This is a tweet from Really American. Injustice. Millions of Americans are furious that the Supreme Court has ruled against President Biden's student debt relief program, which could have excused up to $20,000 in debt, especially in light of politicians and millionaires taking out billions in PPP loans. That's true. It's the second 6-3 decision today, with major implications for the immediate financial futures of many low and middle income students who are looking forward to relief. Has been hugely unpopular in progressive circles, while conservatives have roundly cheered it. MSNBC host Chris Hayes weighed in on the issue with lots of very bad things this 6-3 majority has done. Dobbs being, in my honest opinion, the worst. But them deciding you are now $10,000 poorer than you were yesterday is a really a hell of a thing. The Supreme Court decided that the Biden administration did not have the authority to waive the debt for students, as it would have resulted in the transfer of that debt to the American taxpayers. But taxpayers are already on the hook for numerous initiatives that were thrust upon them without their permission, including the Trump tax cuts that benefited the ultra-wealthy, and forgiveness on PPP loans, which were frequently taken by millionaires and politicians who clearly did not need them. Senator Elizabeth Warren slammed the decision in a tweet, vowing, "This fight is not over. The president has more tools to cancel student debt, and he must use them." Do you believe forgiving student debt will ultimately be beneficial to the majority of Americans? Or do you think that those students just need to suck it up and spend decades paying off that predatory debt because, oh, well, too bad for you? It's just a lot. You know, it's a lot to see. It's a lot to see. Okay, and we're going to dive further into the PPP loans portion of this, which especially conservative politicians will tell you the PPP loans and student loans are two very different things, because PPP loans were meant to keep the economy afloat in light of the pandemic. Okay, so people were supposedly using these for their businesses to keep them afloat, to keep the economy afloat during the pandemic. That is not necessarily true. Let's move on. Justice Alito accepted tens of thousands of dollars in lavish vacation gifts from a billionaire who lobbied to cancel the student loan forgiveness. After the gifts, Alito voted to overturn. This SCOTUS corruption undercuts its own legitimacy by putting its rulings up for sale. There's actually multiple justices that have been found out for accepting gifts from lobbyists recently. Multiple, which is illegal, by the way, but it's only it's so maddening. It's illegal, but it will the people who are in charge of legality of things are the ones committing the crimes. It's blowing my, like, people are like, well, if they're really doing it, then they probably charge them, right? What's that reply there? You forgot to mention that the reason SCOTUS has become a super legislative body is because Congress refuses to do its job. But I get it. It's not easy to do serious legislative work while being a Twitter influencer. He's implying that it's her fault. This is probably like some liberal or some Catholic husband, father of 6 kids. Yeah, it is because of Congress. But you think AOC was trying to block? AOC wasn't even was AOC in Congress at the end of Obama's term? What the hell? You think AOC is able to fix it all? Bro, what are you? Oh my God.
That's a big game, man.
John F. Kendi, thank you for the follow. I appreciate that. Welcome in. So let's move on. Let's go forward. This is what I said today. After paying for Trump's tax cuts for the wealthy and for the forgiveness of PPP loans for millionaires, it is somehow unconstitutional to pay to help poor people with their student loans. Also, no more FSLR websites. That's another thing they ruled on, because they said that a web designer didn't have to make a website for a gay wedding. It's unconstitutional to have them make a website for a gay wedding. They're allowed to discriminate against gay people. The reason why I bring this up, the PPP loans for millionaires, this is the reason why other people are bringing this up, okay? And when someone tells you, someone responds and says, well, that was for small businesses to keep them afloat. That was for small businesses to keep them afloat. That was to keep the economy afloat. Yada, 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 yada. Keep in mind, this is the reality of the PPP loans. This is the reality of what our tax dollars that we paid are going towards. Instead of going towards people who went to school and don't have enough money to pay off their loans, it's going towards this. Of the $510 billion distributed by the U.S. government as part of its Paycheck Protection Program in 2020, more than 70% of it, or nearly $370 billion, went into the pockets of business owners and shareholders in the richest 20% of the population. In the richest 20% of the population got an extra $370 billion from us. We paid for that. Okay? And we're saying this student loan forgiveness would affect a big majority poor people. Okay? Huge majority poor people. The Supreme Court is telling you and me it is unconstitutional for us to pay for poor people's school, but it is constitutional to suck $370 billion out of our paycheck to give to wealthy people. People who would be just fine without it. This is something that is very frustrating to me, and something that hits close to home. During this time, I was working for a small business who underpaid us for the most part, had us do extra work that we wasn't a part of our job description, never had the tools that we needed to succeed. They never showed up. They would have the employees like run to the store to get stuff because they weren't prepared or they didn't order things all the time. And then we're constantly talk about how they're working so hard and they're so poor. It came to a boiling point where we all quit because we couldn't do it anymore. Come to find out after we all quit, thank you. This is actually thanks to Parker. For those of you who know Parker, come to find out they had a $50,000 PPP loan that was completely forgiven for their small business that they didn't show up to and forced their workers to do all of their work for them. So let's move on. So we got rich people are getting the PPP loans, right? But this doesn't say anything about politicians. I mean, who was it? Was it AOC? No, Really American was implying that politicians took part in this. But this doesn't say anything about that. Well, this might. I'm pretty sure that was the norm. It was, because upper middle class people are still exploiting people. They all took the PPP loan, claimed that they were still poor, moved on with their lives. They can't do anything for you. I'm just tired of this shit. They own a money printer and the government just throws more at them. Yeah. Businesses associated with GOP politicians had pandemic government loans forgiven. Viral Instagram post. There's an image that claims to show a list of Republican members of Congress whose PPP loans were forgiven. PolitiFacts ruling. True. And before we get into this article, there are sources at the bottom. So before anybody jumps to the comments or jumps to the chat to say that this is false, it's fake news, there are sources. This is true. This is factual. Conservative politicians have condemned President Joe Biden's plan to cancel a certain student debt. U.S. Representative Vern Buchanan, a Republican from Florida, said it would be unfair to people who didn't take on loan or who already paid theirs off. It would be unfair to people who didn't take on a loan or already paid theirs off, paying for somebody else's loan. You see the hypocrisy in this already. U.S. Representative Mark Wayne Mullen, a Republican from Oklahoma, said the relief shouldn't be footed by farmers, ranchers, and teachers. And the House Judiciary GOP tweeted, if you take out a loan, you pay it back. Period. That's when the plan's proponents, including the White House itself, fired back with what they suggested was evidence of Republican hypocrisy. Screenshots of Paycheck Protection Program loan forgiveness that purportedly benefited these same congressional members. Republican members of Congress whose PPP loans were forgiven read an August 24th Instagram post that listed the names of 13 members of Congress, including Representative Matt Gaetz from Florida, Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene from Georgia. Alongside each name was a federal loan figure in the thousands or millions of dollars that had supposedly been canceled under the pandemic era program. Free money from the government. These are people that don't want poor people to have a fraction of what they got. The list is a screenshot from Twitter of a tweet made by the Center for American Progress Action, a left-leaning public policy think tank. The organization was responding to a post from House Judiciary GOP's Twitter account that said, "If you take out a loan, you pay it back, period." The Instagram post was flagged as part of Facebook's efforts to combat false news and misinformation on its newsfeed. Instagram is owned by Facebook's parent company Meta. In this case, the post checks out. Oh my God, what did I just click on? Hold on. Get that out of here. Comparing the Paycheck Protection Program with student debt forgiveness is not entirely parallel, as the business loans were designed to be forgiven as long as the money went towards pandemic-related costs and expenses. The very loose definition of that. U.S. Representative Ralph Norman, a Republican from South Carolina whose businesses had their loans forgiven, said, "It takes a special kind of idiocy to equate student debt forgiveness to the PPP. The PPP helped people remain employed while the government literally shut down much of the economy," Norman said. Bharat Rumamurti, I butchered that for sure, deputy director of the President's National Economic Council, told reporters the comparison was fair and Republicans were following a double standard. Okay, they're just saying the Instagram post didn't have a source, but other people used the database to find the source. ProPublica's database was made with information obtained through Freedom of Information Act requests from the U.S. Small Business Administration, which implemented a paycheck protection program with the Treasury Department. The program, established by the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act, aka CARES, began in March 2020 to help small businesses affected by COVID-19 cover payrolls and, in some cases, hire back employees who were laid off. Companies across the country received $787.2 billion in loan, the Small Businesses Administration said. Okay, let's just move on. We're going to move on to where we're at with the politicians. Holy shit, it's hot in my room. Hold on just a second. Okay, here we go. The politicians in the Forgiven Paycheck Protection Program loans. Here are the GOP politicians who took out loans and had them forgiven. These are also people who are against poor people getting their loans forgiven. These are people who took out 10 times, 20 times, 30 times, 40 times as much as one single poor person would get, who don't want them to have it. Okay? Matt Gaetz is a shareholder in Pensacola, Florida-based Caregivers, Inc., which received a $475,000 Paycheck Protection Program loan. Before taking office in January 2021, Marjorie Taylor Greene and her husband, Perry Greene, bought Taylor Commercial, Inc., a construction business owned by her family in Alpharetta, Georgia. The company took out a $182,000 loan from the program. Representative Gregory Pence, from Republican from Indiana, brother to former Vice President Mike Pence, owned two antique malls in Indiana organized under Pence Group LLC. It received $79,000. Car dealerships owned by Representative Vern Buchanan from Florida, and we remember Vern Buchanan from up here, Was he the one that said it was idiocy to compare the two? No. He said something else up here. Before he took office in January 2021, also took loans from the COVID-era program. Sarasota 500 LLC, which operates Sarasota Ford in Florida, received $2.32 million loan. $2.32 million of forgiven loan money. Nissan of Elizabeth City in North Carolina got $384,000 loan. The government forgave both loans for a combined $2.6 million. KTAC Corp., a restaurant management company co-owned by Representative Kevin Hern from Oklahoma, had a $1.07 million loan forgiven. Representative Roger Williams, Republican from Texas, owns a Texas car dealership through the JRW Corp. in Fort Worth that received a $1.43 million loan. Trace Diecast, a Bowling Green, Kentucky company founded by the father of Representative Brett Guthrie, a Republican from Kentucky, received $4.3 million. 4 Pennsylvania car dealerships owned by Representative Mike Kelly, Republican from Pennsylvania, took in a combined $974,000 in Paycheck Protection Program loans. ProPublica's database shows Mike Kelly Automotive LP received $197,000. Mike Kelly Automotive Group Inc. received $327,000. Mike Kelly Hyundai received $180,000, and Mike Kelly Chevrolet received $268,000. Heartland Tractor Company, a farming equipment company owned by Representative Vicky Hartzler from Montana, and her husband received $451,000. 5 car dealerships owned by the husband of Representative Carol Miller from West Virginia received a combined $3.1 million in Paycheck Protection Program loans. The loans to DM Motor, Dutch Miller Chevrolet, Dutch Miller Subaru, Dutch Miller of Charleston, and Dutch Miller of Charlotte were all forgiven. The Instagram post differed for the Paycheck Protection Program amount Mullen received. The post claims he received $988,000. When ProPublica reported he received at least $1.44 million across 4 of his companies: Mullen Environmental, Mullen Plumbing, Mullen Plumbing, West Division, and Mullen Services. The Instagram post listed Norman, a sitting member of 23 different companies, as receiving $306,000 in Paycheck Protection Program loans. However, ProPublica found Norman associated businesses had received even more loan money. At least 3 companies associated with Norman received 4 Paycheck Protection Program loans. FM Hotel LLC received $169,000. GBC Rock Hill LLC received $164,000. And Catawba Hotel Associates 2 received loans of $114,000, $160,000. All told, Norman Associated Companies received $608,000 in loans. Sorry, that was a lot of reading and a lot of yelling. These are the people who want you, and they want me, and they want your cousin, and they want your parents, and they want your friends, and they want your neighbors. They want you to work till you're fucking dead to pay for your student loans. They want you to get out of college and get into the first job they offer you, and then work until you're fucking dead to pay off your student loans, while they're getting millions of dollars in free government money. It's so crazy to me. And you know, a lot of Republican normal everyday people are like, yeah, I don't want to pay for some yuppie student loans. It's not yuppies. It's your fucking neighbor, bro. These people have nothing. These are the rules that are stacked against you. They don't want normal, regular people to be able to be successful in this country, because that is a risk to their security. They want the money for them, and they want to keep it for them for as long as they possibly can. And if they can shoot down your one shot to maybe get out of that, they're going to do it. And they're going to take you for everything they got. They're going to hold you upside down, shaking you out for every coin in your pocket, and then tell you that you're a lazy piece of shit and you need to pull yourself up by your bootstraps. One of the Republican justices on the Supreme Court said this after their ruling today. It's become a disturbing feature of some of the recent opinions to criticize the decisions with which they disagree. These people are sentencing us to death. This was a one small chance for some of us who were able to go to college successfully and get a degree in a field that they're passionate about. It was their one chance for upward mobility. They said they see this and they go, "Oh my God, this would change my life completely." $20,000. And keep in mind that the people against this have been receiving millions in free money. $20,000 is a drop in the fucking bucket to that. And they have one shot and they're so excited for it. And this guy says it's become a disturbing feature of some recent opinions to criticize the decisions with which they disagree. The decision we disagree with is you sending us into a life of servitude of the wealthy class. That's what they're doing. They're telling poor people who had the opportunity to go to school just merely by taking out egregious loans to go get back in their place, get back in line, go take whatever job they offer you and start paying them back. You don't have any other options. You don't have the time to search for a job. You don't have the time to work it with your passion job. Get whatever the first job they offer you, which isn't going to be what you want, and you start paying those loans back and get back in line like the rest of them. They're saying you will never be one of us. Let me read a quick statement. This is a statement for the president. I hate calling him the president because I don't like Joe Biden either. But this is one of the only good things that they did. This is one of the only good things that Joe Biden did. He's like, yeah, we'll relieve your student debt. And everyone's like, fuck yeah, let's go. This is one of the only good things that they did. But let's read the statement from Joe Biden. I don't even want to be like them. They just want us to have nothing. They want to suck everyone dry of every penny they have. And it's not because they need it. It's because they need you to be compliant. So fucking frustrating to see people like agree with this horrific decision. This fight is not over. I will have more to announce when I address the nation this afternoon. My administration's student debt relief plan would have been in the lifeline tens of millions of hardworking Americans needed as they try to recover from a once-in-a-century pandemic. And by the way, it does have something to do with the pandemic because they couldn't pay back their loans during that time. But even without the pandemic, people are hurting. They need help. They need something. Nearly 90% of the relief from our plan would have gone to borrowers making less than $75,000 a year. 90% to $75,000 a year. Keep that in mind. Remember, compare that to this. 70% went to the richest 20% of the population. Sorry. None of it would have gone to people making more than $125,000 a year. It would have been life-changing for millions of Americans and their families, and it would have been good for economic growth, both in the short and long term. The hypocrisy of Republican elected officials is stunning. They had no problem with billions in pandemic-related loans to businesses, including hundreds of thousands, and in some cases, millions of dollars for their own businesses. And those loans were forgiven. But when it came to providing relief to millions of hardworking Americans, they did everything in their power to stop it. While today's decision is disappointing, we should not lose sight of the progress we've made, making historic increases to Pell Grants, forgiving loans for teachers, firefighters, and others in public service, and creating a new debt repayment plan so no one with an undergraduate loan has to pay more than 5% of their discretionary income. I believe the court's decision to strike down our student debt relief plan is wrong, but I will stop at nothing to find other ways to deliver relief to hardworking middle-class families. My administration will continue to work to bring the promise of higher education to every American. And later today, I will provide more detail on all that my administration has done to help students, the next steps in my administration will take. Looking at this is so frustrating in a lot of ways. And one of the big ways, Joe Biden's framing this like, oh, we're doing as much as we can. We're doing as much as we can. We want to make the loans not as bad for the students. We want to make the loans so they're not as bad for the students. We want to take some money off their loans, which is great. That's a start, right? They're trying to make this place unlivable for anyone who's not rich, either live or perish. I mean, yeah. And they're trying to frame it like it's your fault, too. You're a burden. There's not enough for you. You're not working hard enough to get what's yours. You're not worth it. You did this. You took out the loans, didn't you? So why are you paying them back? Well, you're not working hard enough? You can't eat? Why not? Work harder. Work a little bit more. Pay off your debts. There are countries that are comparable to the US in advancement, okay? And we all know this, okay? But I'm saying it. There are countries that are comparable to the US that have schooling for their citizens for free. It is paid for by tax money. The reason why they don't want to do it here is they don't want any of you. They don't want me, especially not me, especially not us. They don't want us to have any upwards momentum because they know what that comes with. They know that their clock starts ticking as soon as any of us get out from where we're at. That's why. And they'll keep doing it too. Okay, let's take a look at... Thank you so much, 2023.
You're making me blush. Sub up. You know I like you so much. Sub up. And hear me out. All I wanna know is, can I eat a sub?
Thank you so much, buddy. I appreciate you. Thank you for the gifted sub to Redacted. Yeah, thanks for being here. I really appreciate that.
2023 more like 1984 gifted a tier 1 sub to XO Redacted XO. This is their first gift sub in the channel.
Well, thank you for the gift sub. I appreciate you. Let's take a look at Biden's address from earlier. Yeah, I'm glad you're covering these. Also, you're chill. Thank you. I appreciate you.
Launching live coverage on C-SPAN.
Disappointed and discouraged, or even a little bit angry about the court's decision today on student debt. And I must admit, I do too. Before I tell you the steps we're going to take, I want to talk about what we've been able to achieve so far on student loan over the past few years. First, we made the largest increase in Pell Grants in over a decade, helping students from families who nearly all make less than $60,000 a year. Then we fixed the so-called, with the help of the department, public service loan forgiveness program. So the borrowers who got into public service, such as school teachers, police officers.
This guy reads a teleprompter worse than any other politician I've ever seen in my life. Holy shit, dude. Just put an AI version of him up there or something. Good God.
Officers, social workers, service members, they actually got the debt relief they were entitled to under the law. Before I came to office, only 7,000 people had benefited from that program. Today, over 600,000 borrowers have received relief from that program. And it's still available. So many more people can be helped. And I encourage you to apply if you haven't already. You're still eligible. Go to studentaid.gov. It matters. Third, my administration improved the program from the Obama-Biden administration on income-driven repayment plan. That's what it was referred to as. Back then, we set a limit. Student borrowers would pay no more than 10% of their disposable income to pay back their debt in any one time. My administration is going to reduce that to 5%.
Can they give him like a shot or something before he addresses everybody? Like, it's so bad, man.
It's now the most generous repayment program ever. No one with an undergraduate loan today or in the future, whether from a community college or a four-year college, will have to pay more than 5% of their disposable income to repay their loan. And that's income after you pay for the necessities like housing and food and the like. Typical borrower is going to save about $1,000 a year. And if you keep up payments for 20 years without missing them, your total debt is forgiven after 20 years. That's what the program was before, but we've just reduced it to 5%. In addition to that, last year I announced my student debt relief plan, a plan that was on the verge of providing more than 40 million Americans with real debt relief, up to $10,000 for many borrowers and up to $20,000 for those who had gotten a Pell Grant. Nearly 90% of the relief would have gone to borrowers, 90% of it, making less than $75,000 a year. And no one making over $125,000 would qualify. This program was all set to begin. The website had been set up, the applications had been simplified so that it took less than 5 minutes to complete. Notice had been sent out to people about the relief they were eligible for. 16 million people. 16 million people had already been approved.
He is, though. They're right. Cold Fire says, yep, I'm feeling like a 50 to 60-year-old liberal woman who says Biden is too old. They're right. He is, dude. This guy's a corpse held up by a stick. Holy shit. The Democrats want to fuck us just as much as the Republicans do, just in different ways. They're throwing the game. They're throwing the fucking game by propping up these old fucking corpses in front of us and going, this is what you have. You better vote for it. And then they do these mass campaigns where they go, well, if you don't vote for it, then you're actually voting for Satan himself to take over the country. It's like, you're giving me Satan Jr. to vote for, or a fucking dead body. Liberals are paid to lose. They don't resist fascism. They cover up for it. Their whole point is give a little, take a little. With the conservatives, they don't care about actually making any changes. They go, we have to stop what they're doing. Oh my God. That's why it's so exciting whenever there's any tiny fucking change. He's like, yeah, you only have to pay your loans back for 20 years, Jack, and then you can get some forgiven. It's like, how about none? How about no loans? How about free school? How about you care about poor people? How about that? It's like, yeah, I'm like, it's great that people have some sort of relief, but it's not enough. We're not going far enough.
The money was literally about to go out the door. And then Republican elected officials and special interests stepped in. They said, no, literally snatching from the hands of millions of Americans thousands of dollars in student debt relief that was about to change their lives. You know, these Republican officials just couldn't bear the thought of providing relief for working class, middle class Americans. Republican state officials sued my administration, attempting to block relief, including millions of their own constituents. Republicans.
Yeah, they were about to give starving people the bread end from their loaf of bread. They're going to give them the little heel end from their loaf of bread, and conservatives smacked it out of their hand and said, well, they didn't work for it, so they don't get it.
In Congress voted to overturn the plan. I think every one. I don't think I had any Republican votes for this plan. At the same time, think about this. We all supported the Paycheck Protection Program, remember? PPP? You know, which was designed to help business owners who lost money because of the pandemic. It was a worthy program. But let's be clear. Some of the same elected Republicans, members of Congress who strongly opposed giving relief to students, got hundreds of thousands of dollars themselves in relief, members of Congress, because of the businesses they were able to keep open. Several members of Congress got over $1 million. All those loans were forgiven. You know how much that program cost? $760 billion. My program's too expensive. $360 billion more than I proposed in my student debt relief program. I was trying to provide students with $10,000 to $20,000 in relief. By comparison, the average amount forgiven in the PPP, the pandemic loan program, average amount forgiven was $70,000. Now, a kid making $60,000, trying to pay back his bills, asking for $10,000 in relief. Come on, the hypocrisy is stunning. You can't help a family making $75,000 a year, but you can help a millionaire and you have your debt forgiven. My plan would not only have been life-changing for millions of Americans, it would have been good for the American economy. Freeing millions of Americans with a crushing burden of student debt. More homes would have been bought, more businesses would have been started, more couples would have had the confidence to start a family. Millions of people would have felt they could get on with their lives. These Republicans blocked all that. Now, in addition to the hypocrisy, some of these Republicans in Congress are shamelessly pushing to advance a bill in the coming weeks that gives hundreds of billions of dollars in tax breaks and handouts to the wealthiest Americans. They still haven't given up on making permanent a $2 trillion tax cut that they never paid for. Never paid for. $2 trillion. So let me be clear. For Republicans in Congress, it's not about reducing the deficit. It's not about fairness in forgiving loans. It's only about forgiving loans they have to pay. Today, the Supreme Court sided with them. I believe the court's decision to strike down my student debt relief program was a mistake, was wrong. I'm not going to stop fighting to deliver borrowers what they need, particularly those at the bottom end of the economic scale. So we need to find a new way, and we're moving as fast as we can. First, I'm announcing today a new path consistent with today's ruling to provide student debt relief to as many borrowers as possible, as quickly as possible. We will ground this new approach in a different law than my original plan, the so-called Higher Education Act. That will allow Secretary Cardona, who's with me today, to compromise, waive, or release loans under certain circumstances. This new path is legally sound. It's going to take longer, but in my view, it's the best path that remains to providing for as many borrowers as possible with debt relief. I've directed my team to move as quickly as possible under the law. Just moments ago, Secretary Cardona took the first step to initiate that new approach. We're not going to waste any time on this. We're getting moving on it. It's going to take longer, but we're getting at it right away. Second, we know what many borrowers will need to make their hard choices, which their budgets are being strained now when they start to repay their monthly loan payments this fall. You know, we know that figuring out how to pay these added expenses can take time for borrowers, and they might miss payments at the front end as they get back into repayment. Normally, this could lead borrowers to fall into delinquency and default. But without their it will hurt their financial security, and that's not good for them or the economy. That's why we're creating a temporary 12-month, what we're calling on-ramp repayment program. Now, This is not the same as a student loan pause. It's been in effect for the past 3 years. Monthly payments will be due. Bills will not go out and interest will be accruing. And during this period, if you can pay your monthly bills, you should. But if you cannot, if you miss payments, this on-ramp will temporarily remove the threat of default or having your credit harmed, which can hurt borrowers for years to come. Because the Department of Education won't refer borrowers. And the reason why that will work, they won't refer borrowers who miss payments to credit agencies for 12 months to give them a chance to get back up and running. Let me close with this. Our Republican officials say student loan relief is a giveaway to the privileged. You hear that loud now, the privileged. I love their concern for the privileged. But I know who student loan borrowers are in this country.
Bit of a dark Brandon moment there.
So do all you. The couple putting off having a child until they can find their way to deal with their debt. That's who they are. They're a young putting off buying their first home so they can get out from under student loans. Hope on the horizon, thanks to relief that I planned last year. Today's court decision snatches it away from them. I get it. I get it. I hear this. And I'm concerned about it. But today's decision has closed one path. Now we're going to pursue another. I'm never going to stop fighting for you. We'll use every tool at our disposal to get you the student debt relief you need and reach your dreams. It's good for the economy. It's good for the country. It's going to be good for you. Thank you very, very much for listening. We're going to get this done, God willing. Thank you.
Mr. President, why did you give millions of borrowers false hope? You've doubted your own authority here in the past.
I didn't give any false hope. The question was whether or not I would do even more than was requested. What I did, I thought was appropriate and was able to be done and would get done. I didn't give borrowers false hope, but the Republicans snatched away the hope that they were given, and it's real hope. Thank you.
Mr. President, will you cancel
your authority? Did you overstep your authority?
I think the court misinterpreted the Constitution.
Mr. President, do you admit failure in Afghanistan? Mistakes. There was a report on Afghanistan withdrawal saying there was failure, mistakes. Do you admit there was mistakes during the withdrawal and before?
No, all the evidence is coming back there. Remember what I said about Afghanistan? I said Al-Qaeda would not be there. I said it wouldn't be there. I said we'd get help from the Taliban. What's happening now? What's going on?
I mean, he's going dark mode. I don't need that right now. So there's hope. There's some hope. Okay, and I know we're going on a wave of emotions here, and I'm sorry that was pretty boring and dry there. But there's hope for this to go through, and it looks to be like he's going to push it through in the way that he can. Hope and change, Laval. This will happen, and this is also one of the only ways that he is going to continue to have support. Okay, because if he lets this die, a lot of whatever dwindling support that he still has is gone. Okay? It's just gone. But with this, him fighting for this to go through, he still gets some of his support. So, I mean, this is really the only move that he has politically, is that he has to get this to go through. And it can. There is a legal way that this goes through, that it will not have to go through the Supreme Court because it is legal. And he's doing exactly that. And he's announced he will be doing exactly that. Hope and change. Just like a Joe Biden poster that just says hope and change on it. Good God. So, students have to wait longer. They'll be waiting a little while longer, but hopefully at the end of this road, there will be some little bit of relief for your debts. Hopefully we'll get there. Little steps. Next after that, we got to push it further. It's not just about the COVID stuff, okay? We gotta, it's about everyday people who can't afford their loans. We need to expand on grants. We need to eventually make education free in the United States. Imagine how many people you know, smart, well-intentioned, beautiful people you know, that would go into higher education and have passions beyond what they're currently doing that they'll never be able to achieve because of the way the education system in America works. And that's why we keep what step? What do you mean what step? What I mean by a step is that when people realize that this can be done for them, they will want to advocate for more like this. It will emblazon. That's not the right word. It will make people want to advocate more so for relief like this because they will realize that it is possible for it to be done. Before it's not possible. They're never going to get relief from their debts. But it is possible. And it can happen. Eventually. I don't know. Best SCOTUS ever. Yeah. We love the SCOTUS. From Drops Only Account 1. That's so awesome. Come in on your main account, coward. It's not in let me be clear once again. Because I don't want to sound like libbed up here because I'm not a liberal, okay? Don't fucking call me a liberal. Don't call me a liberal. I'm not saying that this is awesome, great, I love it, but this is something better than before. This is something better than nothing.
I did everything right and they indicted me.
So true. This is something better than nothing, and it's something that shows people that there is it is possible for these things to happen. And when people start realizing more that it is possible for things to be better, and that the people who are representing us just don't want it to be better, it becomes people are more emboldened to advocate for these things, and that's what I'm all about. You know what I mean? I just want people to be fired up. I want people
These
to be
liberals
passionate.
are trying to assassinate my character.
Exactly. Anyways, that's it. That's